Welcome back to the Chin Up Show. This is episode 13, am I right? Okay, good. Fantastic. I have in the studio together with me today the men, the husbands. For those of you who followed us last Thursday, you know that the wives, the women were on as we talked about marriage and ministry. Where we had the women share how they were support to their husbands and to the men in their lives. And so today it's really part two, where I get to interview these strong men who are called of God, and they have wonderful wives. I know all their wives, and they are a real blessing to the church. And today I want to dig in to the minds of these men who all look very good this morning. So let me just introduce them to you very, very quickly. On my nearest right is Gerd, and he is from Germany. He is our church plant coordinator for Germany there at Karlsruhe. And if you're ever in Germany, especially in the southern part, Karlsruhe, if you are landing into Frankfurt Airport, we're just less than 2 hours away. 1 hour if you are driving fast on the Autobahn. But if you're taking the train, even better, it's about an hour. Come and join Germany. Hi, Gerd, how are you?
We love to have you.
Yeah, okay. You can use your microphone, brother.
Yeah, we love to have you.
Yeah, okay.
So be invited.
Yes, fantastic. Okay, and Gerd's very, very strong, wonderful, precious, beautiful wife. Her name is Doris, but she couldn't make it this trip. She is teaching and helping out at a school just right opposite the apartment. How cool is that? And so when you're part of a school, it's very, very hard to come out at non-school holidays. You know, they're so committed to the children and to the school. So we miss Doris, but she can watch this. And,
of course.
Yeah, and she can... Tonight you'll be on already, live. You'll be on live tonight, Malaysian time, 7 p.m. Next to him is Irvin. Hi, Irvin. And he is Malaysian, but working and ministering at Melbourne. All right. Well, not working at Melbourne, but working Melbourne and also ministering at Melbourne. He is the latest addition to our CPC family. He is the assistant church plant coordinator for Melbourne, serving with Pastor Joel. And his wife was on last Thursday, Mel, who really, really shared some really good stuff. He was just telling me, I'm not sure whether he was joking or not, but Irvin said, I asked Irvin, did you watch last week's episode? He said, I was not allowed to watch last week's episode. I think he's probably part kidding, but maybe his wife really didn't want him to hear what she had to share. Or maybe she'll allow you to watch it only after this. I think, okay, to be fair, all right? So behind is Ben-Ji, and some call him now Ben-Ji-san, but Pastor Ben-Ji is at Osaka, leading Osaka together with his wife Michelle, who was also on last Thursday, who also did very, very well. They are the youngest married couple amongst us, and also with the youngest child. Your baby is about 9 months?
9 months, Pastor.
9 months old. So if you want to talk about children, very quickly, Gerd has got 5 adult children and about 7 grandchildren, and 8 maybe coming soon. So lots of experience. And of course, Irvin also has a very beautiful, cute-looking daughter who's probably about 2.5. She's really cute, all right? And she looks exactly like her dad, okay? Mirror image. And then, of course, Ben-Ji, whose son Ray, also looks very much like him. And in fact, it looks like a little Ben-Ji. And then last but not least is Pastor Alvin, who you will already know. He's a regular, sometimes regular at the front of the camera, most times regular at the back of the camera. He is always taking up either the director or producer role for Chin Up Show. He has got a beautiful wife, Jessica, who was also part of the show last week, and 2 sons. One 11, 12 already, and the other one?
10.
10, okay. And we are filming in this place called the Blue Rooms. which is also a ministry that is open for special needs families and children, which Pastor Alvin has the privilege of leading that ministry. Okay, so guys, I want to get straight into it, okay? The first question I have in my mind is something that you can share from your own personal experience. Gerd, we were talking about ex-Germany, and I'm quite sure you were talking to your wife about it earlier. But sometimes I get a feeling from Doris that I don't know what my husband is thinking. He's full of faith. I'm not sure. I'm going to just support him. And then I turn to you and you're like, yeah, let's go, let's do it. Gerd is already a grandpa, okay? So he's like the oldest missionary we have sent back to Germany. But yet, we forget his age because he's so full of energy. He used to cycle around Penang every week. Cycle around Penang. And when he was here, he was cycling far also, I don't know how. But he's a man who is older in age but young in spirit. And your wife sometimes needs to catch up, I can see. Like she's breathing hard behind you, but she's very supportive. Okay. Then you were commissioned last year as a church plant coordinator, assistant to Joel. But it sort of like came as a surprise, not surprise, because I think you and Mel were sort of ready for the next thing. But I don't think we talked about it for like a year before we commissioned you. We talked about it probably for like weeks maybe. And so I don't know whether it was a shock to Mel. I did ask her last week, and she did say, yeah, it came quite quickly, but she did say, I was not surprised because we felt in our life, in our journey of ministry that something was coming. Something was coming.
Hours, not weeks.
Hours, not weeks. Okay. See, that's the way we work in Acts, God prepares you for years. We prepare you for hours, okay? Benji, you had ex-Japan on your heart. I say Japan because it wasn't even Osaka at the first place. And yours came pretty surprising too. I think then came the pandemic, right? The pandemic, and then you got married just the week where pandemic was declared.
The week itself.
The week itself, right? Yeah. So your wedding, which was supposed to be probably 600-700 people, actually was 12.
That's right.
Only 12 people could come for your wedding. I think Michelle cried her eyeballs out. Because
I cried, Pastor.
You cried too. But look where you guys are at. God had a plan. And but I don't know how surprising it was to Michelle because things also happened very quickly. And then, of course, Alvin, I remember Jessica was very, very honest. She said, I was very surprised. And not so much because she think that you weren't capable. It was more like, what? And she felt more the pressure of suddenly becoming a pastor, suddenly becoming like a pastor's wife, and all that. So, okay, I gave you the background already. Now you need to tell me, how did your wife take it when you first broke the news that we are starting this or I'm becoming this? How did you even share it with her? Did you share it with a little bit of fear and trembling or not? Or no, my wife is going to be fine. She's all right. Okay, just give her a sense because as the people are watching, some of them are about to enter ministry. Some of them are already in ministry but never had that talk. Okay. Gerd, you want to start?
I can. Yes. We are already almost 41 years married. By then, you actually know how to communicate. So we were doing this quite long. What do we do when I'm going back or when we go back to Germany? Okay. And we saw all the other church plants like Botswana, for example, UK. And we said, everyone took the DNA from Acts and just transported it over. Why not we? We have so much learned in the 10 years here in KL, in Acts, and we caught actually the spirit. So we were thinking about it and talking about this. This was one side. So we were open to do that. But on the other side, then it happened that Doris got a stroke.
Yeah.
And this caught us by surprise. Yes. And we were thinking, okay, what is it? But we took it this way that we just should start it because we were already thinking of staying longer here, and prolonging my working visa and just continuing to work here.
Yeah.
And I think God wanted us to start.
Yes.
To start off and not wait too long. And that's why we just packed everything and we got down to Germany. And of course, she is not so strong anymore, but she's very, very supportive. So it's not that she's always holding us back. She, in a way, is doing her part with her gifting, and I'm doing my part with my gifting, and we put everything together, and we are adding on. God is actually adding on, and this is good to see, because sometimes you make a step of faith, and then you wait on God to act and react.
Yes.
And it's fantastic how He's doing step by step, and we can see that all the puzzle pieces are falling into place.
Praise God. As you can see, 41 years of marriage, it must be strong. There must have already been all these communication issues, ironed out over the years. 41 is a long time. And so it looks like because of that, they can talk about anything and everything. But yes, there was a wrench thrown into the wheel. We did not expect Doris to suffer from a stroke. And so it really sort of came in at a time, because Gerd was already, he had a few more years to be here in Malaysia. So even when they were thinking about ex-Germany, they were thinking about maybe 2 years' time at the earliest, and that kind of thing. So all of them had to, both of them at least, and all of them, meaning their own family in Germany, all had to start to plan or replan or re-strategize. But it does take a strong marriage to be able to overcome some of these times of challenges in our lives, and they turned around the challenge into a church plant. Hallelujah. Praise God. And I got a chance to visit. So thank you, Gerd, for sharing that. Going to you now.
For us, I guess our story starts when we were here. We were working here, both serving here as well. And we weren't looking to move anywhere, but the opportunity came up to move to Melbourne. And through that, we were praying, as we were preparing to move, I think we came to a decision that, hey, if God's placed us there at that time, we thought it would be only 4 years. It's now been coming up to 10 years now. Wow. We say, if we're God to be there for a certain time, let's put what we can into Melbourne. Let's obey and sow where we're placed. At the 4-year mark, we're exploring with my work, okay, do we come back to Southeast Asia, whether Malaysia or Singapore? What does it look like? And I remember having a conversation with one of my previous bosses, and he said, hey, you know what, it's getting a little bit difficult. Why don't you just stay in Melbourne if that's okay? And we look at that, not many bosses from the Asian culture would do that, because you're moving you to an Asian country, it's a lower wage, it's a little easier with time zones, and we just recognize that as God's favor for us to continue to be in Melbourne. And with that favor that's really upon us, you've got to continue obeying, right? Until you hear otherwise, continue to obey, continue to sow.
Right.
So when Pastor asked if, hey, would you take this role up? And I remember smiling and say, okay, what's the additional responsibilities? What's the expectations? And you outlined it and said, okay. So the conversations with Melissa was very short, and I didn't really consult anyone else other than speaking to Pastor Joel about it, and Jason Martin as well. And it's like, okay, let's do it.
Right.
Let's continue to obey where we're placed, and go with that.
Okay. So I can hear you saying that it's not just a one event. I think usually people struggle when it's a one event, meaning that it's just a surprise, a shock. I never heard of this, I never felt it. But you are going all the way back to we felt called to Melbourne. We saw God's hand. We saw God's hand in us going to serve in Acts Melbourne. And you saw it as a gradual progression, a process of God, a process of time. And so you were really submitted to that. Therefore, to submit to the next thing is much easier. I can see power in that truth, that it's not just submitting to that next step, but the submission was all the way. And I find that if people can just ponder on that, in the last 3 years, have I also been like that? Have I been totally surrendered to the process, surrendered to the progression of God, of the Spirit? Then it just becomes, I don't say easy, but easier. Easier to have those conversations. 41 years of marriage, it's been a journey. So when you have a strong marriage, then you can talk about anything, not just ministry, calling, or even moving to another country. And it's so important to have the journey. And I can see that. I think it's a very, very good way of looking at the next challenge. Is not an isolated challenge. God has prepared us for this whole journey. Thank you so much for that. Benji?
So mine is a little bit unique because I received a call for Japan when I was single. I remember going to Japan with you, Pastor, and one of the pastors there was saying that if you're going to send Benji, be sure not to send him alone.
That's right.
At the time, very much single, and I consider myself very blessed as well. I think one of the things that at the time being single, I said, God, if you're going to send me to Japan and if you're going to bring along a life partner, I pray for someone who's ready to answer the call with me. And through the years, my relationship with Michelle grew deeper. And as we entered into courtship, Pastor, the initial phase of love, let's do it. Then the realization came like, if you're going to date me, if you're going to marry me, you have to come to Osaka with me. And at the time, Michelle was the, campus pastor, and it was really going on super. And for me, my worry was like, okay, I'm sorry guys, if, Pastor Michelle is going to leave with me, I don't know, but we're just going to communicate to God. And true enough, we have that conversation. I think one thing that really encouraged me, and I knew that Michelle was the one for me when she said, if I'm going with you, let's learn the language together, and true enough, actually we didn't really need to have a lot of conversations because I think that both of us already have the heart for missions. And Michelle herself also said that wherever she goes, she would take it as a mission field. And I myself was very blessed that it was a very easy conversation. It's like, if you're going to serve, let's serve together. And even to today, as we said, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. It's one of the easiest things to say because, I have a wife who's really support me all the way, Pastor. So
Last Thursday, some of the ladies were talking about this scripture that says unequally yoked and how important it is actually right there at the beginning even of dating or courtship to make sure, and see, when we talk to young people about this unequally yoked kind of thing, they think we are cramping their style. Why must you cramp my style? You limit my options of men or women. Why must you do that? He's already in church. She's already a Christian. They don't realize it's not just about church or Christian. It's about being equal in your heart for God, your love for Jesus, your passion, the fire, the vision. It's so important. Why? Because when He finally wants to use you, that's when you really know. Go to Japan, what you mean, I love Malaysia, I'll never leave, but Michelle already had a missions heart. So it's so important, and I want the younger people who listen to this to say, I can see it. That along the line, God will call us into things that will require the same values, require the same amount of commitment. And that only comes from your love for the Lord. Same. She loves Him. He's number one to her. He's also number one to me. So both are saying God is number one. There's no one saying God is my number one, but the wife is saying, no, you are my number one and God is my number two. Because that's going to be tested in the days to come. So because Doris loves Jesus and so does Gerd, then both are looking to Jesus and then that's why you're able to continue to. So I like that both of you had the same heart for ministry, for missions. So again, not easy, but easier, right? It just gets easier. Alvin?
Well, Pastor, that question kind of brings me back to when it started. We started XPJ in 2012. It's 2 years after I was married. And newly married, you learn a few things. And then I realized that me and my wife were very different. Even in the area of faith. The joke I always have with her is, she prayed for a man of faith and she got what she wanted. And they always say, be careful what you ask for. Because I'm the type of person, I guess, even when then, and just to clarify, I used to lead XEV, behind the scenes, very happily there, and we're serving. And of course, our church was in a mode of church planting, 2010 and beyond. I remember when Elder Kenya asked me, hey, have you ever... Actually, the first question he asked me was, have you ever thought about being a pastor? And I'm like, where's this question coming from? And I'm telling him, not really, trying to figure it out. And then he's like, we're thinking of planting an XPJ. Will you be interested? I'm like, okay, let me pray about it lah. Pastor, typical question. Yeah. And it was both surprising because you think that a person who is either in, chairing or on stage ministry will be asked to do this, Yeah. So I initially thought, Pastor, I was part of the team. I was saying yes to part of the team. And of course, during the time, a lot of friends were out planting. So I thought, okay, if they can do it, then maybe I can be involved. Right. So the question was, I can be involved. And I told Elder, I said, Elder, I'm open, but I will ask my wife, knowing that if God speaks to her means it's definitely a God thing. And I remember I told her. And of course, she was surprised. Because the joke that I always have is like, I'm the type that if God asks me to go China tomorrow, I'll fly in the plane and go. Right. And she's the type who will say, 10 years later, Lord. Yeah, we're very different. So I told her, and I told Elder, almost like if she say no means, Elder, I'm sorry lah. Right. She came back to me 2 weeks later and said, let's do it. Okay. And I got shocked. And I'm like, okay, God, this is definitely you. And of course later she shared that, and she shared in the last episode that Pastor Sandra spoke a message about advancing God's kingdom, and she received it. And I'm like, ooh, if you know my wife, this is like, right. So that happened. And as I think back, the interesting thing is maybe I was in denial because I told Elder saying, okay, Elder, I'm open, thinking that I'm part of the team. And then later on, I think the thing that really helped me was because I'm in submission to my Harder leader. So what my Harder leader said, just do lah. So he said, okay, Alvin, here are some names, call them. Why don't you organize a meeting? After a while, I kind of got the message that I'm leading it. So it came later. So I'm like, am I leading this thing? Yeah.
Remember, God prepares you for years, we prepare you for hours.
So it's kind of funny because I was just following instructions. I'm like, okay, just do it. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'm leading.
Yeah.
So that was my experience, Pastor.
Praise God.
Yeah.
But all of you are doing very well, and the churches you are leading are doing well. And of course, you can say, just like I will say, but this is common that we can always improve, we always can get better. God doesn't leave us in the comfort zone, He always takes us higher. So, but I do want to say that I'm very blessed by what all of you are doing. And I love visiting the church plants, and I'm looking forward to visiting again. But let me just go deeper now. And you can do this as an individual sharing from your own experience, or you can do it as a general term where, how men think, how men act, react, okay? So you can choose either way, from your own experience or from just your knowledge of how it works. What are the things that your wife has said or done, or what are the things they do that encourage you? Share a little bit of that, because I want the women out there to also listen. That is how men tick. This is how men work in their mind. Maybe it's a word of encouragement. Maybe you might say, every time I finish a Sunday, my wife comes up to me and says, well done. And you're going to, or she just smiles and her smile lights up the day. Or she just serves without complaining. And that to me already, I don't know what you want to say, but I think there will be similarities and also there will be differences. And of course, different men sometimes react or respond differently. So the first question would be that, tell us, and if you have a story, even better. Then the next question following after that is discouragement. I think I told you before we started that when I saw one of the ladies some months ago roll her eyes at her husband, who is in quite a key position in church, in a disapproving way. Even though I knew for a fact that the husband was trying his level best, trying to be a leader for the church and also be a husband and a father. But when she rolled her eyes, it wasn't even rolled her eyes, it was one of those like death stare, like that. No one else saw it, but God allowed me, I think, to see it, because I was coming from an angle and I saw it, and I saw the guy suddenly just shrink. That's just deflated. Sometimes just one look by a person can, like a balloon, just deflate. And I said, oh God, we've got to help the marriages in our churches, because I'm not saying it's the wife's fault, and I'm not even saying it's the husband's fault, but sometimes we just learn, 41 years, we learn as we grow what to show, what not to show, what to say, what not to say, how to be a support to each other, okay? So question number one, what does your wife, or any wife for that matter, do that you think will light up the husband, like cause him to, like fuel to the fire, like, I can win the world, okay? And what are some of the discouragements, okay? So Alvin, I see you here holding the mic already. Why don't you go for it?
Pastor, I wonder if I can start with question number 2.
Go ahead.
Because it kind of gives headway to answer question number 1.
Do it.
I think when I started ministry, and I would say still young, still learning, freshly married.
Yeah.
I personally had an expectation that my wife would need to join me in ministry. So there was that expectation there. And when I say join me, like literally follow me, come alongside. I'm doing ministry, you're also doing ministry. I have 10 guys, you also 10 guys, you also have 10 girls. That kind of expectation, I had the expectation. But then, because my wife was working out in the marketplace and I'm full-time, so the schedules were different.
Yeah.
And I think I was frustrated.
Right.
Because I'm like, why can't you do as much as me?
So you had expectations.
Yeah.
That weren't met.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I remember it was for a while, and thankfully it was before we had kids, because I think after we had kids there were different challenges. So I remember coming to you, Pastor, and sharing with you. And it was kind of like and I think also because my peers, all of their wives were in ministry, or all of their wives were at least more active in ministry. But I'm like, why I like so special, I wish we could share this together. that kind of thing. I had that
I like the way you say it's so special.
Yeah.
This guy like,
Yeah. And I remember having that talk with you, Pastor. I'm like, Pastor, I'm struggling with this. It's been a few years. And I remember you were quiet for a while. And you shared this thing with me, which stuck to me until today, about you have your role to play in this, and she has her role to play in this. And you kind of gave me that perspective that, actually because of what she does, because of her working out in the marketplace, and to be really honest, she earns way more than me, I'm able to do ministry. And because of me doing what I do, she has favor in the marketplace. And I really see that, Pastor.
Wow.
We've got different testimonies about how that happened. That really changed my perspective. Even the role of husband and wife, we are equal but different. And through that, we kind of work things out, and I started appreciating what she does. So it goes to the first question. There are 2 things I can remember that I really appreciate. Number 1 is, she always tells me this. In the beginning, I didn't see it, but now I see it, is that she will tell me that I clear my schedule on Saturday for you and Sunday for you. So I'm the type that will pack it up. I think now I'm a bit wiser, but I'll pack it up with meetings and all. And again, expectation that you must join and then clear. Not knowing that I'm kind of like just dragging her along. So I would say she toed the line, without complaining, without making it difficult. But I didn't see it, And later on, I saw it, and I learned to not take it for granted. And she does support me in clearing her schedule. Like, if she doesn't, like weekends, she won't touch. Unless we got an important family meeting and all that, she asked me, and she will even say, dear Ken or not. And I'm like, and sometimes I'll be quite brutal and say, no. But nowadays I go like, yeah, actually if that's your dad or that's your mom, then let's honor them.
Right.
You know, and I will even suggest things that will cause her to go like, you sure or not? You sure or not? I'm saying, I don't think I need to be here, and I don't think I need to do that. I think we can do this. And she appreciates that. But that has not changed through the years. The other thing I appreciate, Pastor, and I think this is more, and I'll go a bit deeper, I really believe that God brought us together, Pastor. Through the guidance and discipleship of Acts, and through us growing as individuals and a couple now, I really thank our church and I really thank God for bringing my wife to me, because now I recognize two things which I cannot control, and it happens. She a bit malu when I say this, that I recognize. Number one is, I think there's a Proverbs 31 wife, right, Pastor? I really think my wife is a Proverbs 31 wife.
Nice.
And I think she caught that spirit from Pastor Sandra and the other leaders here, because she does it. So she may not be physically there all the time in church like me, you know, but she is there taking care of the house. She's there taking care of the kids. She's there doing all these things as my wife. She's there supporting me in ministry. There are a few times she would comment things which make me go like, whoa, you know, we are on the same page. You know, I mean, one of the things that recently our church went through some challenges with people moving on, and you know, I remember my wife saying, dear, you know, I have this sense that it's not ended yet. And I'm like, I learned to take those sense from her a bit more seriously, because there's already once or twice, Pastor, where she dream about something and it happens. When she have a sense about someone and she wants me and it happens. And I learned to take that. And I think that's spiritual, Pastor. Like when my wife said, hey, I'm not very comfortable with this guy. I keep it in my heart, no, Pastor, like, okay, I'll watch out. Because there are a few times she will say that, I'm like, no lah, he's okay, you know, and then I spend time and I get, well, lack of better term, stabbed in the back or, you know, taken for granted, and I'm like, wow, dear, I should have listened to you. And she will just have a sense. So I really recognize that could be the Holy Spirit, about wives having that sixth sense, no? So I do appreciate that, Pastor.
Call it intuition.
Intuition. So I will count those two things as that, and also something I learned, you know, which I had to manage my own expectation, Pastor.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It is a process, right? And a progress and the whole learning thing. Now, just for the audience's sake, if you're hearing any sound like, you know, there's a little bit of banging and throwing, is because baby Ray is in the house. And we are so glad that we could have the whole family here. Pastor Michelle is upstairs trying to, you know, just stay away from the recording. But if you hear the sound, it's Ray, and so Ray is in the recording as well. So it's fine. But we already said this recording is raw, real, and I think they're trying to do their best to be as silent as they can upstairs. But anyway, we hear you, Ray. Who's next? Encouragement, how your wife encourages you, you feel it, and sometimes the discouragement. Again, if it's too sensitive, then just say, my friend. My friend's experience with his wife. Okay, anyway, go ahead.
Since you mentioned raw, Pastor, I'll jump in.
Okay.
I guess encouragement and discouragement is a bit like love languages, right? Like how you express and how you receive love. And this is a ongoing conversation with Melissa. We've been married, I think this year will be 11 years.
Wow.
And she's not a person that encourages much, but she doesn't discourage. Right. And for me, I can encourage, but I also discourage frequently. So we've got to find that balance, and we're still working on it. We're not perfect. And by all means, we're still, you know, being worked.
Right.
So at the end of the day, I think it's Ephesians, right? It's what was the title of this the show was marriage and ministry. So you're gonna have this verse come out in Ephesians that talks about wives submit to your husbands, but it's sandwiched, and people always forget it. It's sandwiched between wives and husbands submit to God. Yeah. And then it's also backed up by I think husbands love your wife as Christ loved the church. By giving himself for him. So that means it's sacrificial love, right? So we've got to find that balance. And knowing that my wife is submitted to God that's the encouragement for me as well, right? Like for one example was just this weekend, anniversary giving. To be completely honest, we didn't prepare for it. It was in the back of my mind, but we didn't have the time to approach it. Right. So when we came to, writing down numbers, she turned to me and said, "Do you have a number in mind?" I said, "No, not really." And then so we kind of had the same number. And then I had to go, "Hey, Mel, which currency? And her currency was a little bit higher than mine. I'm like, okay, I recognize that's her faith in work.
Right.
And I guess, we could afford it to that extent. So, okay, we go with that. So for me, that's an encouragement because her faith is put into action.
Awesome.
Her faith is being put through.
Awesome.
The encouragement bit we're still working on on each other, and also for me the discouragement piece,
right?
We're still working on it. Yeah,
sure. Oh, beautiful though. That's a beautiful story. Just the faith that your spouse displays can just make you go, wow. I think Alvin, you alluded to that also. What your wife says at certain times, go like, what? And it is, for me as well, Pastor Sandra, I'm encouraged by her love for God, for her faith. I told the ladies last week that one of the biggest boosts I ever got was when Pastor Sandra was preaching one day, and she says, do you know who's my favorite preacher in all the world? And I thought she was going to say Lisa Bevere. I thought she was going to say, T.D. Jakes or whatever it is my husband, And I know what when she means it and when she's joking. So I go like, wow. Because sometimes you feel like you're not that great a preacher. And your best and worst critic is your wife, usually. And for her to say that, Another time my wife said this, when we were poor and really had nothing. And I felt so bad as a husband, because as husbands, we want to provide for our wife. Yeah. We feel like, good. We feel good as a man. And I felt really bad because I couldn't buy her shoes. I couldn't buy her anything, as some husbands can. And she said to me, dear, I'm your wife. We belong to each other. We are meant for each other. Even if I have to sell nasi lemak with you, we will do it together. Wow, I tell you, I wanted to cry outside, but I was crying inside because outside is still macho, But inside I was like, wow, how did I deserve this wife? She's very strong. Yeah, some people will say, wow, she's a high D, or she's a tiger woman or whatever it is. She'll bite your head off, dragon lady, all kinds of names, because she's very strong. But when you find the right woman, even no matter how strong they are, they can submit because it's the right fit. As you were saying, that's not God blessed us with that wife. So sometimes it's words, Irvin, but sometimes it can just be the act. And so good to hear that. Thank you so much. Who's next?
Pastor, I think for me, I'm just going to share from one of my experiences. I remember it was our second anniversary for Osaka. We did, Pastor was there. And I remember coming back after the long day. I think Pastor went back. You came over to the hub after Pastor Joe, Pastor Kenneth, you all went back. I remember sitting down and I looked at Michelle and I remember crying, because I said, I just remembered saying this. I said, to have someone supporting me in my calling, I think that's something that is a real blessing. Why did I say that? It's because that I'm just, at the time I was just remembering, she was helping you translate, Pastor. And it was just only 3 years back when she first stepped into Osaka with me. I remember, we were, the first day out, we were trying to buy groceries and Michelle was taking out her phone, using Google Translate to translate things, because she's like, oh, I don't know what it means. And I remember walking into the grocery shop being so overwhelmed by the amount of Japanese and, we don't know what is this, we bought the wrong things. We thought it was long beans, but it turns out to be garlic shoot, all these things, But to see her 3 years later, translating, for even for you, Pastor, and I was just recalling, through the within the 3 years, there were nights, where we were studying Japanese, late nights, sitting down, and she says one thing. She said this. She said it wasn't to, some people when they study Japanese, I just want to watch Japanese shows without subtitles. I just want to listen to the music without. But Michelle said this. She said that my ultimate goal is that I want to be a good interpreter. I want to interpret well, and I want to translate well. And this is my goal. And I really also want to speak their heart language. And to see Michelle 3 years doing that, I think that was something that really encouraged me, to have someone that is going along with you,
Yeah.
you know, Pastor, and not just running along with you, but believing with you as well, Pastor. And you know, on the note of being talking about discouragement, we have a lot of friends in Osaka. So there was this couple, same thing, you know, different dreams, but the husband had a dream of being in Japan to study the language. So he brought along his wife. And for the 2 years of them being in Japan, all they did was just quarrel. And the worst thing is that our friend, who's friends of this couple, every time when we talk about the couple, she refers to the couple as the quarreling couple. And I go like, do we want to be known as that? And when I look at Michelle, sometimes I always wondered, what do people see us, you know? And to have a wife that is always running along. And I think Pastor also talked about submission. You know, I mean, everybody knows, Pastor Michelle, you know, when she was running Campus Day, she was the very strong one. And the funny thing is that I always joke even in Osaka now, a lot of people are afraid of me, but not her. You know, and she has taken on that pastoral role, the care role as well. And you know, just to really run with me in this calling. And just a side note, you know, just to be very real, you know, my past relationship, I've dated girls who are Christian, and when I go to church on a Sunday, you know, when I serve, they ask, why are you serving so much? Why are you going to church so early? But to have a wife who says that, I want to learn the language so I can serve together with you, I think that is something that is really encouraged me. And through these years, every time when I feel discouraged, I look at my wife and I see her running with me. I say, you know what? Let's go. And every time I say, let's go, Michelle will say, let's go 2 miles. Let's go. Let's run further. So yeah, this is my encouragement, Pastor.
Yeah. I don't know whether you know anything about that couple. And it's better not to know their names and all that because I just want to use the example only. Just the example, not saying that they're bad people or whatever. But it's sad to go somewhere to serve the Lord together and be quarreling so much until other people are now, they are defining our relationship as a quarreling couple. I don't know whether you've heard anything about why they quarrel or what they quarrel about, but can you speak into that? Because people are watching are probably going like, I wonder what people argue about. What is the tension? Is it because he brought a wife who he never caught the vision? I don't know. Do you know anything about it?
I think one of the things that my friends always say, the wife says this, is that it is your thing. It is your fault that I left everything and I came to this land.
Right.
And
it is your dream, your vision,
yes.
your passion. You wanted to come. You know, it's okay.
It's not me. My friend, when I'm hearing it, it's always that it's not me. It's not my thing. And yeah, Pastor, this is the common lingo.
That is the big one. That is the big one. We've heard many years ago, of course, Pastor Sandra and I also are called to missions. And we didn't go anywhere because the Lord told us the biggest mission group in the world is young people, you know. So that's why we gave our lives to young people. But we heard, as we were studying in preparation to go to missions, that the biggest reasons of missionary failure is not hard ground, is not anything else, but the husband and wife cannot work together. That's one. Or you cannot work together with people around you. So it's always about your own team. Your own team. It's not even about the people outside. You know how we expect people outside to be hostile. We expect people outside to be unbelieving. We expect people outside to say, go home, right? Get out of my country, you know. We expect that. But we don't expect it from our spouse. We don't expect it from the team members. So 90% of missionary failure has been not the inability to work with one another. Team is team. And, you know, the best team is husband and wife. And this thing about, actually your wives who were on the show last week said that, 2 things they said. One said, we learn to work together. We learn to realize that it's not just his vision, it's our vision. That was at least 2 or 3 wives said that last week. They said, yes. And then the other one said, we had to work we had to work together. So we if we could, we went out to ministry together. Yeah. If we could, because it's not just my husband going. But sometimes if only he can go because I have to be back with the kids, we also understand that's our vision. My part in our vision is to stay home. So that was a very, very beautiful closure to last week's interview. But another lady said, even within my husband's vision, I can have a vision. Within my husband's ministry, I can have a ministry. So when they go together to church plant on Sunday, she says, my husband is a CPC, and within that CPC vision, I find a role in that. And she says, I see him go up, I will do this. I see him call for altar call, I'm the first one up to support the first lady up, pray for. So she says, no, we cannot just see it as his. We have to see it as ours, and it's a very, very, very powerful thing. So thanks, Benji. Good.
Yeah, I have to start from the very beginning. Please. Of our getting know, dating, and then starting to think about what God is putting us together for. And Doris and me, we are completely different. She's more grounded on one side. So overthinking things and and then making things according to plan. First one, then two, then three, whatever. Right. I'm on the other side, very spontaneous. You tell me something and I'm on. But then you can actually lose it. Yeah. Actually, because then you are on so many races at the same time, or just that you don't reach actually the goal, right? And so we had to learn. One example was at the very beginning, I was aiming for US. I was already applying for the green card there. I wanted to move over there. She came from a little village, very tiny village, and she could not imagine to transfer to a completely different continent, a different country. So that's why we stood actually then together, according to thinking it over and making decisions. What grew through the years that she was actually able to say, okay, of course, I follow you. After almost 30 years of marriage, or 25 years of marriage, when the decision had to be done that I have to move over to Asia to continue to work in my field, then it was a very easy decision for her. So I saw her developing as I got more and more grounded in my part. So these are the cutting lines of where the two circles of individuals are just cutting into each other. Yes. This has to function. So there you have to speak it through. This have to be in one accord. But each of us are still individuals. Yes. And you could see that even in Asia, while I was actually following my profession, she was blossoming in her profession and helping there in hospitals. She's nurse, and she found her spot of being relevant, being something. And we got to know many expats here, where the wives were following the husbands, but they were actually drawing the husbands out again because they had nothing to do here. They did not find their center of life. And one of the centers, of course, was church. Yes. This one we did from the very beginning. This was the biggest center for us to find a common ground with each other and to learn together. That's why decisions like making or building or opening up or starting Germany was actually an easy task. Still, we are doing according to our giftings and our plans. So each of us has some part that they are taking over and that they are fulfilling, and I'm doing my part.
That's so good.
And this is the good thing. But the basis is actually you have to have a marriage that is developing over ages. We can see this here also with the men. Some are younger married, so they are still developing. Others are already more settled, like Pastor Alvin, right? And so they find common ground which are helping them to overcome or to have victories and challenges. Because challenges are actually not there to bring you down, they are there to grow you and to lift you up and to bring you to a complete new level. And when you see this after 40 years right now, over 40 years marriage, I love actually my wife more than I did in the beginning. So I appreciate so much what she's doing in my life. And right now, starting from the cooking, taking care of the house, all these things where when I'm coming home, I come home, I'm so tired sometimes, so I have to rest sometimes. She's always around and comforting me. So I feel sometimes, hey, what am I doing for her, right? So this is going constantly through my mind. But as husbands, we have to do that. Yeah. We have to please our wives. We have to give them time where they can relax, where they can enjoy, and you know the love language of your spouse.
Yes.
So you try to comfort her, to do something that pleases her. And this is then always a giving and taking of each other. And it's wonderful to see how it's growing more and more intense instead of just losing it or falling apart, right? This comes with a long, successful marriage.
Amen. That's so good, Gerd. We're all learning from 41 years of experience. You know how you have to pay good money, to listen to this, and we are getting it for free. So generous for sharing that. Thank you so much. So for all of us here, there's hope. It just gets better. It just gets better, more beautiful. The wine story, the wine of the day was finished, but the wine from the Lord, just gets better as the night goes longer. I like the part. I like almost every part you shared, Gerd, but that part where when the wife doesn't find her place, she will have to draw out from the husband. That's why we don't even say things like, where's your better half? Because we're not half. We are full. Man is full in Christ. Woman is full in Christ. When you're full because you get straight from the Lord. And then you don't have to borrow from each other or steal from each other or rob from each other. Otherwise, if she is half, you are half, then you have to take from each other. And sometimes you have nothing to give. But when we draw from the Lord, He has so much to give. And so when the woman finds a place, she doesn't have to draw out. And if she doesn't have to draw out or take from the husband, take. Because if you keep taking, the guy just becomes, he just shrinks. And he can't do what he was called to do. Always have to be home to please the wife. Always have to be. I've seen before relationships, the phone rings every 5 minutes. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? What time are you coming back? What time are you coming back? I mean, it's okay once, twice to ask that, but I've seen 5 minutes. This is real. No? I've seen it. I can see every time the call comes, the husband shrinks. No? He shrinks. He doesn't want to pick up anymore, but he shrinks. No? And then before we can even end the conversation, 1 hour later, he's, bye, I got to go. And none of us want to stop him, because we know his marriage is at stake. So even though we are good friends, sometimes we like to tease. No, come on, stay another hour, But this one, it was so bad. No, please go. Please go, And can you imagine if it always happens like that, then we won't get the fullness of what the husband is supposed to do as well. And it can be vice versa. It can be, I've seen the husband also call the wife, how come you're why are you so late? And she's only been with her, maybe with Pastor Sandra for 20 minutes, Yeah. Good.
Yeah, just to add on this, it's very important for husbands, that they learn to listen and to hear. So sometimes I came home, you are tired actually, you want to have your silent space, whatever, but then if you know how to take off, I just need to ask my wife, how was your day? What happened? And then actually women start to talk.
Yes.
And then either you take your phone or you do something else, or you just listen.
Yeah.
And you go into that, and how interesting, because then they are developing a kind of with self-esteem and with pride, what they went through and what they made decisions of, and how their life is developing in their part.
Yes.
That you also as husband gets amazed how God is actually leading your partner their own ways. And as He's just connecting with you and leading you personally, and then everything put together is building such a strength to each other, right? So never forget to have time. And sometimes it's midnight. You come home at 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock or whatever. Still take your time. And as we know, ladies have to talk 20,000 words a day. If they don't get it, it's just summing up, and then you are in big trouble. Right? So you better let them talk.
So good. Thank you so much. I have only 2 more questions, and we will bring the podcast to a close. How do you make it easier for her to support you? So I think he started off. She supports him, and he makes it easier by saying, "How was your day?" So that she can share, and so you're actually making it easier to support you. But I think the extra thought that Gerd had contributed was that you also want to find out how is her own contribution working this marriage and ministry out, because otherwise you have nothing to share. If I was here asking you, what's your wife's part? You go, I'm not sure, I never asked her. But now because you ask her, you can say, well, in a day she does this, and she does this. She told me she did this and she called that. And did you know that she also called one of the church members? She actually went coffee with one of the ladies. I didn't know that. If she didn't tell me, I didn't know that. Wow, thank you for that support. Thank you for knowing your place and your role and doing it so well. But let's talk about how do you make it easier for her? Because sometimes just asking for people to support you is one thing, but sometimes we don't make it easy for them to support. So let's hear from you.
I think we can go on for quite a long time with this question, right? And I think we talk about different functions, and it's always we're all different parts of the body of Christ.
Yes.
And I like the New Living, the NLT version, because it says we play a special function, we play a special role.
Yeah.
And we've got to recognize that we can't all do the platform ministry as Pastor Alvin talked about, and some of us are geared more to, we have more grace to operate in the background. So even in the home and in ministry as well, we kind of recognize that. So especially for families with young kids, if one person is in preaching or worship leading, the platform ministries, it takes more time, preparation, more effort, and it's not more important than the other.
That's right.
Everything's needed, but it just naturally takes more time.
Yes.
That means the spouse would have to anchor the home, anchor the kids, not just when the spouse is ministering, it's when they're preparing as well. So that could be throughout the whole week. And that does take a toll on the family sometimes. And we've got to find that balance and understand each role we play, right? So, for example, if, I've got a 2.5-year-old, and it's not like we can say, okay, it's dad's turn, it's mom's turn. We try to, based on the meetings that we have and the stuff that we have, but sometimes no, she's like, no, I want daddy, or no, I want mom. So if sometimes Melissa is, she's on an espresso sometimes, and she would bake. And it's often you bake it the night before, because it's as fresh as it can be. But if so she's okay, you're gonna put Aaron to sleep. I'll go out to get some ingredients so I can come back and do the baking. So then, what if Aaron goes, hold on, no, I want mom, I want mama today. So then I can't just be sitting around watching TV, say, okay, she'll get it done. I'll go, okay, what was the grocery list? Can I go out and buy it? Can I support it, right? And I was just thinking of how the body functions. Like, you always gonna have to brush your teeth. Hopefully, you brush your teeth every day, right? Whether you're preaching or not, you gotta be brushing your teeth. But then your toes are always functioning. Your toes are always there giving the support. But once in a while, you gotta take them out for a pedicure. I don't go for a pedicure. I'm not sure about you, Gerd. But you gotta let them have that time to get ministered to, get relaxed, and find that find that beauty, right?
Yeah.
Find that beauty. And that's for both wives and husbands.
Right.
Whatever your quiet place is, your silent place is, you got to find that, hey, you give that balance.
Sure.
Or else, if you're both running and you're both not giving space for each other to rest, it will burn out pretty fast. And at the end of the day, we are called to minister to our families as well. Both husbands and wives, parents. We're called to minister to our families. If we can't get that right, it's a hard question to answer, right? How do we then minister to the church if we don't have it right at home?
That's good.
So I think that's something we've got to work out.
Excellent. So I think about roles and responsibilities and how we have set some of these things, and yet still having to be aware, very aware of your surroundings, of the situations, of the cries, of the sometimes the facial expression. So you go beyond sometimes your set roles and responsibilities and your set duties, because that day could just be different, and you do it because you want to support your significant other, your loved one, your spouse, and because some guys can, if you're not aware and sensitive, you can go like, no, it's your turn, right? You say you go to buy, it's on the list that you will do things like this. You will cook, and then you realize that, hold on a minute, it doesn't work always like that. It's nice to have got roles and responsibilities so that we know what to do, but I think just being aware. You know how they also now say about God awareness? That God awareness is not just Sunday, but being God aware is that here, we're just aware that God is here. You go for lunch, and you're talking to the waiter, and you don't disrespect the waiter because you're just aware that God is looking. So your Sunday is Monday to Saturday now. And so Sunday could be a set day for worship, but marriage, set, but yet it's not like that. I just aware, maybe my wife needs the extra help today. And if you go the second mile, which the Bible teaches us, it really goes a long way. Thank you for sharing that, brother, because doing the groceries when she said she was going to do it, but we just being aware, and then by doing that, you're already supporting her, and by supporting her, you support her to support you. Yeah. Go ahead, Irvin.
Yeah, I think it helps us extend grace to the others around us as well.
Yes.
Because you have that struggles, and it's hard to get to church on sometimes. So then when the new parents come along, then we're like, hey, we've been through that before. It's okay, and they'll come out of that period.
Right.
They will come out of it. So it's like extend that grace to them.
Exactly.
And it's an ongoing, different phases in life. The kids grow up differently. It's just like, hey, how do we follow and how do we submit as well? So.
That's right. And I'm hoping that this podcast will do the same to the many men and women who are watching. Praise God. Next one, Benji.
So, Pastor, one thing I believe is that the reflection of your marriage actually starts at home. I'm so after having Ray, like what Irvin said, we used to have like set responsibilities especially for Sunday when we get up. We have to do this. So sometimes, Ray goes through some teething problems. So throughout the night, he wakes up and all this stuff. So Michelle had to get up and kind of soothe him back to sleep. So sometimes on the Sunday, I always tell myself, I say that, how can I support her? How can I love her? Sometimes by just doing, making it easier for her, and especially, we want our wives to, for me, I just want Michelle to go to church looking good as well. Having to deal with Ray sometimes and deal with all these things doesn't give her enough time to take care of herself. So for me, it doesn't hurt for me to get up. If I have to get up at half an hour or an hour earlier just to pack, just to prepare everything one go. So at least when she gets up, when she has to do anything else, it's just a smooth ride for her. And for our family, we always tell ourselves, we say that we want to be a testimony as well when we go to church. We want people to look at us and say, it's possible. When we bring, go to church, when we serve together as a family, that is the testimony that we want to bring to our people. I think that for me, it all starts at home. How do I take care of Michelle? And I like what Pastor say, we support them so they can support us as well. So, it requires a little bit more work. It requires a little bit more sacrifice, but sometimes it's necessary.
Yeah.
I remember, Irvin was saying, sometimes, we always miss out the part, a wife honor your husband, but you say, husband, love your wife as Christ loved the church. It's sacrificial.
Yeah.
It's going the extra mile. And I always tell my guys, I say that it's to the point of death, and all sacrifice, So for me, it's nothing much. Just waking up half an hour earlier, doing things the night before.
It's dying to your sleep.
Dying to myself. It's dying to sleep. Sometimes sometimes I know I have to shave. Like if I have to shave, because sometimes shave in the morning, and I told myself, just do it the night before. One thing out of the way. If I can take care of Ray, give Michelle a bit of time, that helps her as well. So even carrying stuff as well. Can I make sure that she's all right?
Yeah.
And true enough, when we go to church, she's supporting me all the way. So what is that little sacrifice that I can do for her?
So good.
Yeah.
That's why God give you extra muscles also, brother.
Yeah, Pastor. That's the reason why, Pastor.
So that you can carry one more thing for her.
Yes, Pastor.
Maybe one day carry her. So all right, cool. Fantastic. Alvin?
I can think of two things, Pastor. And
Okay.
I mean, as you shared, I think Benji alluded to it. It does affect marriage. I think if you've got a strong marriage, you can have a strong ministry.
Amen.
Which is what we are talking about right now. And I can think of two things, Pastor, and I've got funny stories to share about it. One is, of course, communication.
Yeah.
And I remember we had a coaching, I had a chance to join this coaching thing.
Yeah.
And again, it's about makeup lah. Because I'm very, I think I'm like, go get her, let's do this, And I remember after the coaching session, I realized, it dawned upon me that every time I talk to my wife, I wasn't listening enough. And it was just a revelation, like, wow, this whole coaching thing is awesome. I just need to keep quiet and listen, as a coach, and not give answers at all.
Yeah.
And I told myself, hey, I'm going to do something about it. And immediately that week itself, I took my wife out for a date. I think I surprised her. Took my wife for a date. We went to a cafe, and I just listened to her for 3 hours. I didn't say anything. I was tempted to, but I just coaching,
All right.
And Pastor, I tell you, it was revelational also. Because a lot of stuff that maybe in the past 2-3 years we were dealing with, she was able to share freely. And I was able to understand. And and every time I need to kind of and I realized also, Pastor, that when she was able to share freely, she was also able to receive more from me.
Wow.
When I had to share her hey dear, why don't you do this? So I realized that, wow, okay, that unlocked something. So communication. So that was an interesting revelation. And we are and I remember, I think we're close to 9 years married. They only had that revelation. Another thing, Pastor, I would say it's something I learned from church. I think that's a statement that says, if everybody gets and no one gives, nobody gets. But if everybody gives, then everybody gets. Yeah. And I practice that in my marriage. I practice that with my wife. Small things. I'm a morning person. I wake up early in the morning. One of my dreams was, I say worst because it's very funny. One of my dreams is to, everybody get out, all the family get out, let's go for breakfast together. But my wife is not a morning person. So our routine now on a Saturday is that I will let my wife sleep in. And she really appreciates it. I will get up, do all the housework, do everything, and then I'll let her sleep until the joke is 12 o'clock. Of course, now she denies. She said, no, 10 o'clock only. But I'm okay. And I will prepare everything for her, and I will even tell the boys, boys, you be quiet, Mommy is sleeping. You don't listen. Because they're what, Mommy? I said, no, stay downstairs.
Right.
And I'll just take them out and all. And she really appreciates that. And the other thing I give her, and I don't know whether she noticed this or not, but she clears her schedule on a weekend. But every time she wants to meet her friends, I don't ask her what time she comes back. In fact, Pastor, she will tell me, dear, I'm going to go from 8 to 9:30. I will mentally buffer another 1.5 hours. And I won't even call her.
Right.
Of course, there was once, it was quite late already. And I had to hey dear, where are you? Are you safe? But I do that. I don't bug her when she does the stuff. I don't pressure her. I'm like, oh, okay. But I will mentally like, okay, I think she needs more time. So I'll just, and I don't know whether she noticed it, but I try and do stuff like that. Yeah. I think in a marriage, when both are giving, both are supporting, you can reap the benefits of it as well. When the other person sacrifices. But I think if it's just one person sacrificing and the other person not realizing, it can be quite challenging. So, but those are two things I learned in church.
Very good.
So I really resonate when Gerd said one of the key things and circles that we need is church. Because in the community of church, we learn not just, about spiritual things, but we learn how to be better people, better husbands, better wives.
Amen.
And that has been a real benefit to me, Pastor.
Amen. I like the way you said twice, I don't know whether she sees it, notices it. Well, she will right after this podcast.
Now she'll know, Pastor.
So is there anything else you want to say? No, I was kidding.
No, it's okay.
All right, good. You have anything else to add to that? Your support of your wife, making it easier for her to support you?
Yeah. One of the first things I do now, specifically on the weekend, because during the week I get up very early at 4 o'clock and then start working at 6. So by then she's still sleeping. But it's a routine for me to serve her every morning a coffee. Wow. So bring it to the bed. And we started very, very early. So when she got pregnant, it's one tip also for women who have then the morning sickness to just stay in bed, serve her with a drink, with a coffee, a tea, and give her some bread, which is carbohydrates, and make marmalade on it, with some sweetness, because then everything that she lost through her pregnancy, because there is another human being growing in her, so the body takes actually more of strength, and that's causing actually this kind of serve your wife with that in the morning. She will be blessed with it, and she will be having much less of this kind of troubles. But this morning coffee is a kind of routine, just opening up to say in a way without saying it, I love you, I want to serve you.
I'm thinking about you.
I'm thinking about you, you are worth it, and I appreciate your partnership and being close to me. Okay, these are the simple things, and otherwise, there are so many things. Like I was talking before, letting her speak from her heart, and women are processing it not only in her brain; it's much more multifunctional than ours, and then they formulate it by saying words. And when you are a good listener, or you learn to be a good listener, then you will get a lot of things that are worth it to keep it in your heart. Also for her. What I do also is I surprise her by just spontaneously, and she knows it by now, to say, okay, pack your suitcase, we go somewhere for 1 week, and she has no clue where and what to take. But she's following me right now, and then gets full of surprises on the way while we are traveling somewhere, and even flying off. She did not know, and getting to know another city, another environment, and just to share with each other the goodness that God is actually preparing for us.
So good.
So while this is completely something strange for her. Your spouse is actually trusting you when you lead her into something that is positively surprising them. Then they get it after a while. They say, okay, he's not doing something crazy or something that I cannot bear with. It's something that I can appreciate it. I have fun. It's something for my heart, for my relaxation. It's me time. It's our time, as a couple.
We time.
We time. And it's very important, especially when you have children. So our children were quite small, and were very close together, all 5. So then we took just grandpa and grandma, and then we had me time. We time, actually. Just finding out what do we do in these new situations, because they're growing up, they're coming into different stages. So it's very important that we talk it up with each other. How do we go on with this and that situation? Right now it's coming up, it's popping slowly up. So that we can act as one accord, as one,
Yeah.
right? So they cannot actually play out each other, us, if they don't get it from mommy, they come to daddy, and the other way around. No,
Yeah.
both say no, or both say yes to something that they are able to do, and then it's much easier for the children and much easier for you as a couple.
So it's back to team again. And the team in a family is mommy and daddy. In fact, even if you didn't have children, you're still a family and you're still a team. And if you invest in that team, it will be a blessing to everyone, including your children. But because sometimes people forget. And there was one lady recently, a lady preacher, who said, I want to remind you, I'm not married to my children. I'm married to my husband. And sometimes they forget because you spend so much time and so much, you want to please your children so much, your marriage is at stake. So I'm not married to my job. I'm married to only one. I'm married to one. And I need to therefore have that relationship with that one, the special relationship. That special relationship cannot be for my children. That special relationship cannot be for my job. That special relationship is only for, because I'm married. So the word marriage is a special relationship. So I have to treat special what is special. And so important for years, 41 years, and some are 12, and mine is 30 this year. It's just continue to work on that team. And you will see the benefits will be reaped, not just by yourself, but by the people all around you. I like to comment 3 things on Gerd's sharing, which was so good. First 2 ones are a little bit of a funny thought. Number 1, if you want to have 5 kids, take the advice. Okay, just cups of coffee, you can have 5 kids. If you don't want to be stuck at 1 or 2, take the advice. Okay, just constantly. Second thing I want to say is the simple things, because with men we are big on the big things. I took you to New York. I bought you that big diamond ring, 20,000 ringgit. We are big picture guys. Women are the small, the breakfast, lunch, dinner, the washing your clothes, cleaning. They're small, and that's how they show love, right? That's how they show support. Men is like, I'm going to take you to Santorini, and we talk about Santorini for the next 25 years, where we took them. But Gerd is reminding us, it's the very simple things that doesn't even cost much. But it's still a sacrifice because you still have to do it, still have to wake up 1 hour earlier, etc., etc. But I think men forget that women love. There was one man who put a rose, a freshly plucked rose, next to his wife's bed. He goes very early in the morning, and he walks for about an hour, and he plucks a rose. He goes into the room. The wife is not awake yet. He puts a rose next to her bedside, and she will get a rose, fresh rose, every morning. And the morning she didn't receive it, she knew that something happened to her husband, and he died. He died while walking in that morning, and so she knew immediately, no rose. But the story was so beautiful that he did it so often, small, but that when he didn't do it, already knew that something was different, something was wrong. It's not easy, but I think it's day by day, step by step. Don't think about it. Can I do this for 10 years? You don't think so far. Just think, I can do it for today. But women appreciate more, even small things. But I like the big ones also. The surprise, pack your bags, let's go. Although some women don't like that. You didn't tell me. I didn't bring my makeup. I didn't bring my swimming suit. But I have to tell my wife sometimes, no, it's okay. We are so big in our heart. Sometimes we go like, even if they didn't have the swimming suit, we'll buy it there. Fresh one. Even if they didn't bring their makeup, I'll buy it there, that kind of stuff. So, or I didn't bring that nice dress, you take me out for a nice dinner, in this place that we are going. Let's buy a new dress. The surprise has to go further. I don't have to go, I got my T-shirt and shorts on, how can we go to this 5-star restaurant? But they like that, they do. Some women say, I don't like surprises, but it's only because of that. Because you didn't tell them enough to bring them to pack well. But having said all that, it's a really beautiful advice that we're getting from different ones here, and we're sharing both our success and our learnings. And I think it's very, very helpful. I'm going to close this podcast with just one more question. And we already talked about it earlier. This question is quite similar with the last one, but it's just slightly different because we talked about how the woman, the wife, also has their part, their role, their ministry within the ministry. Okay? Hopefully you know, guys, that the reason why Pastor Sandra can do a lot of things she can do is because there is also a man who supports her. And some people don't believe in women preachers. But obviously you know that your pastor believes in it because she's out there, she's preaching. You will see me preaching once at the ALC and then she's preaching once at the APC. And people are still asking me, Pastor, why didn't you speak more? That's not the point. The point is that I hope you understand and the people here understand that when your wife thrives in her part, is because there is also someone saying, go do it. I'm with you. I'm behind you. Go for it. You have a gift. Don't stop with this, And when your wife is baking, because someone is encouraging her. Because you can see that husbands can also say, why bake? Forget it, I'm preparing, you stop baking. Because, and it can be really quite a dampener. But we also want to see our wife, and that's why we call it, a lot of people don't know that the word bloom for our women's ministry was coined by me. Because many years ago, a lady told me, Pastor, we ladies are like flower. If you gently treat us, we bloom. If you don't, if you step on us, we die. And then I realized how women, like flowers, actually naturally, by God's grace, will bloom for His glory. But they need the support, the encouragement, the go do it. And so can you imagine your daughters will bloom because of the fathers speaking, but they will also, feel like they want to die because there's no support. So as our last question for today, tell us a little bit about how you recognize your wife's giftings and ministry and how you support that. Can we just do that?
Pastor, maybe I'll start. I think it's all about roles, right, Pastor? Because I remember having this thought where I had advice from Pastor Elder Kenya to say, I must lead my wife, I must lead the family. And I think in the early days of being a young man, it was very difficult to figure out how. And I think I'm still learning about this whole leading my wife, leading my family, because my wife is very strong. She also can be on her own, we are both quite independent, it's very interesting, the dynamic of relationship. But I can remember two things, Pastor, that I think God has called me to do, which is to, like you shared just now, help my wife grow. Because she might not have enough confidence and she might see her role as just supporting. But I do recognize her role more than that. And I've also seen her bloom in that, especially PJ, Pastor. I think PJ came to me. And although in the early years, I will say we did it together, she always, I think she shared in previous, like, I don't want to be pastor's wife, why am I doing this? She always say that, and I'm like, hey, we are doing this together, right? And she always like, no, this is your thing, I'm just here to support you. And she has been a support. But I remember even one discouragement we had was, because when we were planting church, and I think it was just both of us in our friend group, and we were sent out to PJ, and PJ is not very far, but because the people you hang out with, and because I think that time we also had a young child, and naturally a group of, it's all natural, organic lah. A group of friends were in another church plant, and because most of them same age, so they will have parties and we will not go, and of course for me, because church planter, more steady, I'm like, hey, this is my missions field, I'm here. But my wife is discouraged. She'll like, they didn't invite us. And I remember telling her, and during that time, PJ were a lot of campus students. I remember telling her, I said, dear, let's not worry about it. Let PJ be our people. Let's build our people. This is our people, And she caught it, And now, if you go to PJ, everybody will say that, just like the big mama in PJ. She won't admit it, but they will recognize.
Right.
They've told me that. It's like, every time Jess chairs, it's like the mother preaching. That's what they say lah. But right. No, this is what the people say. Of course, she will not admit it. And I've seen how she's bloomed in PJ. Although she won't admit it. She was like, no la, you know. But I've seen how she's bloomed. I've seen how she has grown as a leader. Because she also shared with me that she has passion for women. That's why she's very honest when it comes to Bloom. She has passion for different things, you know, in the marketplace. And I've seen her do that. I'll share one thing that I think I've managed to encourage her. I think there was a season in her life where a lot of the girls under her huddle sort of moved on. And she was quite discouraged for a while. You know, at least 1-2 years, she's discouraged. And of course, I tried to ask Pastor and ask Elisha, how and I know she has more to give. And I've always encouraged her. And I think God has restored that. Now different girls actually approach her and I say, hey, can you disciple me?
Nice.
And she'll come and ask me. And I'll say, yeah, isn't God speaking?
Yeah.
You know, because I'm here hearing you say you cannot. But I also do share that there's definitely something you have that they recognize.
Right.
Because now it's not like, oh, you know, I spend more time with you and then naturally you say, no, it's just different girls around church to say, Jess, can you disciple me? And I'm like, hey, God is doing something. And I'm seeing her do it now more. I'm seeing her grow now. And Pastor, I kind of understand what it means to lead your wife. It's not just lead, give instructions. It's lead, encourage. It's lead, I love you. It's lead, hey, you can do it. That's the leading. Hopefully she sees it.
Yeah.
Hopefully she catches it. You know, but it may not be like direct.
Yeah. It's not always instructions.
Yeah.
But it's inspiration.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah. So that is something that I feel my wife has grown into. And I'm really proud of her.
Fantastic.
To do that. Yeah.
Fantastic. Who's next? Benji, you're still thinking, are you?
I'm just echoing what Pastor Alvin said. I think the most important thing is it's really leading, Pastor. Yeah. And a lot of times, and this is what I've learned is that women don't like to be told what to do. They don't like you to fix their problem. Sometimes tell you what, then you're like, oh, don't do this. But I think that, I myself, I'm just sitting down here listening to Pastor Alvin share, and, I'm just like, wow, actually, lead by encouraging, lead by, it's sometimes just going that direction and say, hey, come along, you can also do this. And I think now in this season that we're in, Michelle has Ray obviously to take care of. I think one of the things that she said that when we went for the Global Leaders Retreat, she said, when we go back, I want to start, with some of the girls, discipling them, and immediately I went like, all right, let's do it, and encouraged her. And I told her this, I said, you want me to take care of Ray? And she's like, no, I'll bring Ray along. I'm like, are you sure you want me to do? It's okay, but I think one of the more important things that I caught myself today was really leading, leading by encouraging, not, I would say, not instructing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
In law, maybe some of you have watched it before on television in courts. The judge will say, or the other side will say, the counsel or the lawyer is leading the witness, and it takes a professional to catch what's happening, because the lawyer is not directly saying, say this, say that, say this, but he's actually oiling, greasing the path so that you are moving easily towards that direction. And you are paving the way. You're not saying follow here. You're just cutting the branches and kind of like, okay, if you see it, you see it. If you don't, you don't. So it's very subtle. And in law, we don't allow it because you're leading the witness down a path whereby it might not be his own mind thinking. So that's why they don't really allow it in courts. But in life, that's how we lead. We lead by example. We lead by encouragement. We lead by maybe even saying that, no, you do have that gift. Because sometimes a person just wants the assurance, the affirmation. So you're not saying you must, but you're kind of just paving the way to say, yeah, you look, you consider, I just hang the picture. You have a look at the picture. I'm not saying you must look, but if you look at it, then hopefully you'll be inspired. So that kind of a leading. Very, very good reminder to us. Yeah. Anyone? Okay.
When we talk about leadership, for example, right, to lead as men, we in our marriage, we made actually the same example as it happened with Maria and Joseph, right? The angel or God was talking to each one individually.
Yes.
So the leadership is coming from God to the individual partners, right?
Yes.
And it's funny that God is putting you in you as man something that leads you to see the gifting that God has put into your spouse.
Yes.
And to encourage her in that.
Yes.
So the first as man is to get to know, which takes sometimes a while, the gifting that your spouse has.
Yes.
As well as they get to know from the leadership unto God, what is your gifting.
Yeah.
And then to encourage each other. So to see my wife is very, very strong in building fellowships, building friendships, open up much more. I'm the guy say, hey, I grew up in an environment, our house, our door, our apartment was always open for friends to open, they can come in, but I'm not the person to really so intense being able to connect with people, to invite them.
Yeah.
She does.
Right.
So it's actually a kind of putting God putting things together,
Yes.
so that we are constantly having people that are coming new. They are strangers for me when I come home.
Yeah.
But because God has put this into my heart, to be open for that, it's for me easy to encourage her in that.
Yeah.
You say, continue in this. As you remember, when she was here, she was in Paturang, she was helping sick people. You know the situation with Sammy. We had Sammy, we had another little boy taken care of. Yeah. And right now she's taking care of a little girl that is going to school.
Right.
So she has a specific heart for that one too, right?
Yes.
To give her the time for that, right, is very essential. No pressure, not like we were talking about, a timing. Okay, I give you 1.5 hour or 2 or 3 hours. No, leave open end. No timing. Sometimes it can be after midnight. Sometimes people come because they are so afraid or so fearful. You have to stay up a whole night with someone, right? To bring them down. If you as a partner bring timing into it, you're actually destroying this kind of thing, because there must be a kind of trust that your partner is doing the right, and when they need time to solve this, she will do it accordingly. Right? For us, it's thinking about, what do I do when she's coming back home late, right? Because she was connecting with people. What do you do there? Our work and our job is then to comfort them, to give them rest, to let them sleep a little bit longer next day, or when they have to go to work, to give them in the afternoon rest. You have to have this into calculation, because it's the other way around, exactly the same. Yeah. She's giving me time, for the things I am good and I'm doing, and as well as I'm doing this for her. Right? So then living accordingly gifting. But it's important that the leadership is coming from God.
Yes.
And it's coming individual to each of them. And funny it is, it's somehow matching together,
Yeah.
So exactly God is leading you towards your spouse to encourage her as well as she's starting to. So it's not so much leadership interaction, I lead you as my wife, right? It's more God is leading me as God is leading her, and we are functioning together. The strength and the gifting of each of us is put together, and then it's not 1 and 1 is 2, is 1 and 1 is 7, 10, 30-fold. It's much more strength in it.
That's beautiful. I actually love the Joseph and Mary application in this, because if you think deeper, they were not married yet, right? But they had a relationship, they had a friendship. And God came to the woman first, actually, and gave her a gift. This one is a real gift within her womb. And so we recognize the gift in the woman's life. And that gift was going to change the world. If we read on, we know that Joseph, as an honorable man, was going to put her away, either hide her away or just, and not get married, just not embarrass her, but also not get married. And God had to minister to him so that he can encourage the gift that's already in her. It was not natural, and sometimes even the world might struggle with this. Oh, it's not natural that a man encourages his wife like that. It's not natural that a man supports his wife. It must be the other way around. It's not natural. Maybe it's not cultural. Because in that scripture, it's not cultural that a woman, she was worried about that. She said, how can I be with child? I'm not even married yet. So there's a lot of cultural stuff that was going on. I'll be embarrassed and stuff like that. So we might also be dealing, those who are watching, dealing with cultural issues. Maybe you're Chinese and it's not like that. Maybe you're Indian and, hey, Indian men are, or maybe you are, so many cultural barriers. Natural barriers. What's right, what's wrong. What's a man's part, what's a woman's part, the kind of thing. But so good. It comes from the Lord first. What does He say? Beyond your culture, beyond the nature, beyond roles and responsibilities that we talked about earlier, beyond that. It's just, are you listening to God? What's He saying? And then now you turn around and the gift is not to the man now, the gift is to the woman. And we're recognizing the woman also has a gift. And the man's part is to do his part, which is, he said, the Lord says, don't be afraid to take Mary as your wife. And he obeyed that. And he must not have slept with her, because he was a virgin birth, right? So that means he even obeyed that. I mean, which man would do that? Go, hey, she's my wife, you know what I mean? And he would have just totally destroyed God's plan. So he didn't touch her in that sense intimately like that, as far as we know. And he allowed the process of God to be at work. So wow, that kind of support is amazing. But so if we only think, because we always celebrate Virgin Mary, but we never say Joseph. There is no Joseph in our preaching. And yet it took a Joseph to empower a Mary. Thank you for bringing that up. That was so good. Praise God. Alvin.
I think I've got, one truth and then two practical examples.
Okay.
I think the first part is, I think Paul wrote to the Philippians, to the church in Philippi, that we were talking about unity, right? And that's first and foremost, the marriage it has to be a united marriage, where we are wholeheartedly agreeing, and with one mind, working to the same common cause, common goal. And it's maybe just for the big things. For the small things, we can work it out. For the main thing about loving Jesus and serving His house, we find that agreement.
Yeah.
And then I think pretty much echoing what everyone is saying is to give space and grace.
Yeah.
Right. We talk about flowers. You need the right amount of space for the plants to grow.
Yeah.
You need to provide each other space to operate in the callings that you have in your lives. Practical examples. So we like to, I guess, when I say I like to host people at home, to have people coming over for meals. And I would typically prepare the meats. Whether it's a barbecue or
Irvin,
something
by
in
the
the
way,
oven.
is really, really good. Really, with meats and barbecue. I've had it twice. And I've had it twice. One was actually in the park, okay? And one was in his home. Maybe 3 times, but each time you're like eating in a 5-star restaurant. I kid you not. I'm not joking. It was so good. He's really good. Anyway, go ahead.
So I've got the grace to do the meats, right? I guess. But Melissa is really good at desserts, right? But then if you go, I only have one oven space. How does that work? Which part of the meal is going to go hungry and get worked out later? So, and that's the same as in life. We've got to only have 24 hours a day. You've got one family unit. How do you find space to each other to do your cooking, to get it ready? Until your capacity enlarges, in terms of cooking, that's a second oven or a barbecue set outdoor. Then you can do more. But you got to work and agree to, hey, how do we work this meal out?
Yes.
And similarly to, I guess when we talk about marriage and ministry, it's also talking about the whole family life. It's also talking about careers, right? So one example for me is in the past year, Melissa leads people at work, right? I lead people, but in an informal manner, and my sphere of influence is across. It's not confined to our suburb or to Melbourne, so it's harder to meet in person. But Melissa leads people in person in Melbourne. So I say, hey, honey, we have the option of remote working, but I say, hey, honey, if you're gonna lead people, you might have to spend time with them. So I release you to go into the office, more often.
Right.
That means I have to sort out stuff at home. And sometimes we're still having these discussions, right? What do we sacrifice? And it's going to be practical things. We mostly home cook our meals. So if I'm doing a full-time job, she's doing a full-time job. Okay, so if we don't have time, do we cater some meals? Do we eat out a little bit more?
Right.
And you got to agree together.
Yeah, make it work, right?
Make the sacrifice. We haven't found agreement whether we get a cleaner in or get some takeouts.
Yeah.
But we agree to work towards it, and I think that's the most important piece, right?
Excellent.
Because if we are constantly struggling within the marriage, the anointing, the blessings will get stuck within ourselves. But once we find agreement, I think it will overflow to the people around us,
that's
and
true.
I think that's what we have. Yeah.
Fantastic. Wow. I think I'm going to be watching this over and over again because it's so good. And I'm sure it's just going to be a real blessing to the people who will be listening in. Some people watch it because they have all the time to watch it. Some people actually put it as a podcast in their car or, and listen to it as audio. But I'm so glad to have been able to do this today. 3 of you will be returning back to the places of your ministry. I think you leave today already, right? Tonight. Where do you leave? Tonight as well. So it's back to Osaka, back to Melbourne, back to Germany next week, Monday, and back to everything else that you're doing here, behind the scenes, behind the camera. But as I'm saying that, I'm thinking about how God put us together today to be able to do this. I don't take it lightly because I know that every word that goes out can touch and transform somebody's life and help somebody's marriage and release people into the calling that God has for them. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for spending time with us today and being so generous with your sharing. I am confident that people are going to be blessed by this. So this is Kenneth Chin signing off from the Chin Up Show. It is, as we said earlier, the 13th episode of Season 2. And I do want you to leave a comment, leave a like, but most importantly, please share it with people that you know need to hear it. The Lord bless you till we meet again. Take care.